Jonah Hill has returned. And it was underwhelming. That's right, I watched You People, and I don't mean like you guys, like you people watching this video. I mean the movie, You People. I watched the movie, You People, and here are my thoughts. Good lord. If you've seen it already, let us know down in the comments below what you thought. And if you haven't seen it yet, then tell me if you plan to see it. With that, let's get started with the good. Let's just start off with the obvious one. This is an all-star cast. You've got Jonah Hill, Eddie freaking Murphy, and even the woman from Seinfeld, who I don't really know the name of, and also don't care enough to look it up, but she's a pretty good actress. With a cast like this, you already start off with a huge advantage. These people know how to act, they can deliver lines, and they generally just know how to be funny. And for the first 30 to 45 minutes of this movie, it was very well conveyed. Fantastic performances across the board for our actors and actresses in this one. And as I kind of just said, the first third of this movie was kind of exactly what I expected and wanted out of this movie. It was funny, it was relevant, and it felt somewhat original. Now, the first part of the movie doesn't do anything extravagant or necessarily new, but it was genuinely enjoyable and seemed like it was headed in the right direction. As you can probably tell by the way I'm saying it, it didn't necessarily stick the landing. But we'll get to that in a minute. Before we get too mean though, there are a couple of other good notes that I had for this movie. One of those being that the overall message here is a good one. People are different, that's a good thing, love them, care for them, learn from them, don't be weird around them, and the world will be a much better place. Again, nothing really revolutionary here, but they knew what they were going for, and I would say they hit the mark. Lastly, for my good section, there was some interesting transitions and some good cinematography throughout this. It wasn't too wild, but there were some moments where the cinematography grabbed my attention in a good way, and I can appreciate that. But let's move on to what I had mixed feelings about. You thought we were done talking about transitions. You fool. So the transitions, on their own, were interesting. However, it's kind of as if they had a 10-year-old in there who just learned how to use iMovie and found the transition button and just keeps pressing every one for every single scene. Like, I understand that these transitions are fun and look good, but that only lasts for a maximum of like 10 times. I don't think I need to see this big collage transition type of thing every time you show a new scene, but thanks anyway, I guess. It's not a huge deal, but it definitely annoyed me, so now you get to hear about it too. Hey, you clicked the video, so it's not my fault. Also, this movie, and I'll talk more about it in the bad section, but it kind of just ends up feeling like a typical rom-com storyline by the end. That, of course, on its own does not make a movie terrible, but it's not my cup of tea per se. There are tons of people who absolutely love predictable rom-com storylines, so if that's you, then that might be a perk. But if you're more like me, it's not necessarily the worst thing in the world, but it's also not the best thing. With that though, let's move on to the bad. The first third was genuinely so good. It was a solid start. So what the hell happened at like the 30-minute mark to make this an absolute stinker? Oh, come on. It's like they sat down to make a YouTube video and then were asked to make a full feature-length film out of that. Maybe had one too many drinks or smoked one too many Smarties.
Straight gas, guys.
This is where the typical rom-com movie thing becomes such a major con. After the beginning portion of the movie, there was just nothing really original or even all that funny for that matter. Basically, everything in this bad column kind of contributes to this shitty second half, so keep that in mind. And you know what? Let me ask you something real quick. If you had Eddie Murphy in your movie, what type of character would you make him? You're probably imagining a character that's goofy and energetic, maybe even charming from time to time, right? Well, I bet you didn't say an old religious dad who takes the fun out of everything and for half the movie is just giving stern, judgmental looks at everyone, did ya? If that is somehow exactly what you thought, this movie will be perfect for you. Literally the moment Eddie Murphy steps out on the screen, he just sucks all of the life from this movie. And it's not his fault. It's not his fault. It's the writer's fault because they thought that he had to be this typical rom-com dad who just hates everything and doesn't like the boyfriend. Like, why would you do that to my mans? Why? But oh no, it is not just Eddie Murphy's character in this. Every single character is awful. Granted, his character probably is the worst, but then Jonah Hill feels the need to lie about everything for no reason. Seinfeld lady, yes, I still don't know her name, is constantly spewing woke shit and being racist in the process. And then the lead actress in this barely has any character at all, and that's because it's nearly impossible to write a good character who would actually deal with all of this. Honestly, I kind of found myself rooting for them to break up because both of their families are just the most toxic people to each other, so maybe just don't. Breathe, Cody, breathe. It's just a movie. Lastly, and I kind of mentioned it a moment ago, but this movie tries really hard to be woke by making fun of woke culture, but like in a really bad way. I know some movies can do that, but this one cannot. And I'll be honest, in the beginning, I wasn't super opposed to it. They were doing a fine job, but then by the end, it just became another senior year type of movie. If you don't know, that was one of my least favorite movies last year because it was completely bogged down with this terrible, cheap type of humor. Unlike that movie, there were parts of this one that I did like, so it wasn't quite that bad, but I feel like it tried to be, honestly. But with that, let's move on to my final thoughts. It was better than senior year. I promise. It just wasn't at all what I had hoped to get from a Jonah Hill-led movie after he had taken a year break from acting. The really disappointing part is that it seemed to be going in a great direction and then just veered way off in the second half. Unfortunately, You People was unable to stick any sort of landing in the last part of this, and so unfortunately I have to give it a C-. If you love Jonah Hill, I do recommend checking this out because he does provide some good laughs in this. Otherwise, I would just recommend you watch some other movie on Netflix. But that's all, so thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this, please make sure to go ahead and press that like button and subscribe button, and I'll catch you in the next one.